Ask her. Do we have to call him up?
So I get a... Do I call him up?
Channel 27.
Yes, that is exactly right. You do a motion, a second, and then it goes for discussion. Yeah.
Fantastic. How about yourself? Never better. How about yourself?
And we have no
Okay, do that. Because in the motion, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll do that. Gotcha. Yeah.
Alrighty. I was just thinking about that.
So, all right. I believe we're ready to call roll.
Okay, Johnson?
She called your name.
Johnson?
I'm here.
Lopez?
Here.
Mars?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Ringer?
Here.
Sisti?
Here.
Zimmers?
Here.
That is 7 present.
All right. President comments. Public comments will occur during the public comments portion of the meeting. If you're interested in addressing the board, fill out the required public participation at board meetings form and submit to Ms. Mitchell in the front row. Kind of nervous. My parents and my mom's here, so I'm kind of nervous why they're here. I haven't done anything wrong lately.
I checked. Sure. I checked.
There's mom showing up.
Looks
Like
okay back
mom
there.
showing up at the principal's office. I said that did happen one time.
One time only? One time only?
Anyways, no, tonight's a big day for us. We're all here, but we have numerous District 186 student athletes getting inducted to the Springfield Hall of Fame tonight. Southeast, Springfield High, Lanphier. So it's a great night. I know we wish we were all there, but it's a great thing for the community. So everybody's back from spring break. So everybody's got a lot of last push for the end of the year. So we're gonna
Feels like December outside.
yeah.
So.
All right, we're gonna do board salutes. I'll start with Mr. Ringer.
I have nothing to report this week.
Okay, Mr. Mars.
Yes. Since taking office last May, I've had the honor of being able to visit every school in the district over the last couple of weeks. I had a chance to visit at Ridgely, Washington Middle School, Du Bois, and Matheny Withrow. And I also had a chance to attend a CRISP McBride's invitational track meet on Saturday. It was a lot of fun. Very cold, but it was a lot of fun. Also, just in touring all of the buildings in the district, I can't tell you how impressed I am with the dedication that our administrators and our faculty and everybody down from the janitorial staff to teachers' aides. I mean, just very, very impressed with what we're doing in 186. And I would encourage everyone, if you have a chance, to visit all of our schools, if you do, or at least take an interest and go to wherever your kids go or your grandkids go or nieces or nephews, because there are a lot of great things going on. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Okay. The only thing that I can really remember doing was going to Washington Middle School for their Wednesday afternoon session, and they had a training on social and emotional learning. Is what I had in my notes. I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Yes.
But they had a good discussion, and I think that the program that they're developing will benefit their students very well. So I was impressed, and Mr. Zimmers was there also, and so I think I'd like to come back for the follow-up session if they let me know.
Certainly will.
Thank you. Mr. Zimmers?
Yeah, I'd like to give Washington kudos also. Thanks, Mr. Turner, for allowing us to sit on that. It was very informative, and you know this, but I need to say it publicly. You have a great staff there. Always have been. They're very dedicated to your students, and so I appreciate you having us there. And also, and I think this was either 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Debbie Thomas could probably correct me, but I was able to attend a middle school Wednesday afternoon session where they're redoing how they're doing history now in the middle school, and they're doing more conceptual teaching, more technology involved. They're bringing the global world to the students, so they can actually see it. They're not reading it in a book. We all know once a history book's published, it's out of date the next year, and so they're able to keep it current. So thanks for inviting me to that. It's very informative, and you guys are doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Okay. This is nothing. Okay. We'll move on to 3.3, Alex Harden shoe giveaway drawing. Throw back.
Oh, sure. Alex, I know if you and your family would like to come forward and you can introduce them. But Alex Harden is a... All right.
We're good.
So, yeah, I mean, thank you, Alex, for coming again today. WNBA player, Southeast High School alumni, so long basketball tradition there on the girls' side as well. And you have been providing shoes to one girls' basketball team in middle school for some time. And so I know you have given those to Grant and Lincoln Ball Charter team in the past. And we have representatives from our other middle schools here. So where are you currently playing again? In Phoenix?
This year.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So this past off season, I played in Israel again.
Okay.
That's not getting back, and then also I'm going back to Phoenix this summer.
Yes, and she tells me she's about 7 months in Europe. So great. All right, so we'd like to put the names in the hat there and.
Representatives from Franklin, Isles, Washington, and Jefferson can come up so you guys can fold your own card. I'm not
Okay,
saying-
ooh, okay, all right. I know, right? Well, Reka is our student board member,
There
if you
we
want to
go.
have her.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. I won't tell them where you live. It's okay. Imports. No airplanes. Come on up, Rika. All right.
Okay, let's see. Isles and Washington.
All right. All right, thank you so much. They're going to be excited. It's been a good week.
There you go. Thank you again. All right, we're going to move on to 4.1, old business. Do any board members have any old business? Okay. Hearing none. 4.2, do any board members have any new business? Hearing none. Student business.
So our next meeting is going to be at UIS with the chancellor of UIS, and she's going to be asking us some questions kind of about recruitment for this school, college, and kind of some things that we like in a school and kind of getting our feedback. So that'll be really cool. We're doing that for our next meeting in the end of this month. And then we're all the students on the roundtable will be helping with the penny drive that we're doing at the high school. So that's going to be really fun. And then I'm really excited to work with the new student board member, Zaire Harris. He's booting me out, but I think that he's going to be wonderful. So I'm really excited to work with him, and I'm excited for next year too. You guys will love him.
Great. Well, thank you. Now, when's your last meeting? Do you go all the way to, is it May or June?
Go through
Yeah, we
the
go in May.
May, okay.
Then she graduates.
Then she's like, I'm
And then I
done.
leave.
Yes.
All right. Thank you again. All right. We have a couple presentations to the board.
All right. Well, yeah, I'd like to invite up Lane Zimmers, and I know you have some family and friends in the crowd to cheer you on as you come up, and maybe one sitting up here at the table as well. But Lane was the recipient of the 2017, and I'm going to say that it's a gross Grosvenor, Teacher Fellow Program, and that is a professional development opportunity for pre-K through 12th grade educators, and is made possible by a partnership between Lindblad Expeditions and the National Geographic Society. The annual competitive application process is used to select educators, and then they are hosted abroad for different voyages and life-changing field-based experience. Lane, you're going to share your experiences tonight. I know that you went to
the Galapagos.
Galapagos. Help me out with that. Islands, and you saw some amazing things, and the pictures have been awe-inspiring that you sent back, and I know you're going to share those with us.
And I'm going to interrupt one thing because you forgot one thing.
What was that?
She's a Southeast graduate.
She's a Southeast graduate, yes she is. And a Franklin Middle School graduate, which makes me feel really, really old right now. But I also will tell you that not only did it benefit you personally as a teacher in your professional development, but it's benefited your entire school at Lincoln Magnet, and your principals in the front row taking pictures right now, because the students actually, not while you were away, got some benefits, but are continuing to receive those benefits. So we're really excited to hear about your adventures.
Yes, and on top of it too, as my dad mentioned, also with the conceptual teaching unit, I am part of that group, which is a middle school team here in our district. They've also benefited, so all the other middle schools in our district are also receiving not only the content, but also the global and technology tools that I was able to obtain. They're now using those in their classrooms, and not just regular ed, but high track, as well as even some of our self-contained at all of the middle schools. So really excited to share that.
Perfect.
I'm also very proud Butler Bobcat and Isles Eagle. Just to throw that in when we're talking about it. So again, my name is Lane Zimmers, and I am a 6th grade world history teacher at Lincoln Magnet School here in the district. And it was my very big honor, obviously, to be a 2017 Grosvenor Teacher Fellow, which is through National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions. They are the main sponsorships of this fellowship. I am wrapping my fellowship up here at the end of May. So a little sad, but I do have some responsibilities next year, so it's not going away. And I had the opportunity to go to the Galapagos. Many people had no idea where that's located. It's on the Pacific side of South America, and it's actually very far off from the coast. It's not a close island set, so it's pretty much in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So before I get into my actual experience, please note I will be providing some information about a future event I'm going to be having in May. If you'd like to see all of 1,000 of my photos, I probably won't show all 1,000, but many videos. I have other things to show as well. But I want to get into the actual program before I get into my actual experience there. So this is a program that was started several years ago for K to 12, not only for United States citizens, but Canadians as well as Puerto Ricans. And it's for traditional, meaning either private or public school teachers that work in a classroom day after day, as well as non-traditional. That would be people that work in museums or maybe areas in their cities or states that deal with natural resources or the environment. I actually went abroad with a woman from Topeka, Kansas. Her name's Rachel Rost, and she is a zoo educator there. So that's what refers to as a non-traditional. And this again is made possible by National Geographic and Lindblad Expeditions. For those who are not aware, Lindblad Expedition is a company that has fleets of ships that take not only teachers but regular citizens around the world to experience the unique continents that we have. And National Geographic, I think many of you guys know, based out of Washington, D.C., not only a magazine, but they also do other things with wildlife, humans, kind of looking at the, evolution of all of our exploration of all the continents as well as continents, as well as environments. And I was one of 35 fellows that was selected out of 500 applicants. So it was a very big honor, and it was a very extensive application process. I had to complete many essays. I had to do a video log of who I am and why I wanted to do this. I also had to have a recommendation not only from my principal, Nicole Hyen, but also outside resources. So I actually tapped into our Smithsonian connection. Several years ago, we worked with them in Washington, D.C. on a water project. So I had to go through many steps to get this, and I was very honored to be selected for that. So we also, before we actually had the opportunity to go to our different sites, we got trained in the March of 2017 in Washington, D.C. at the National Geographic headquarters. And this was very important because National Geographic has a large framework on many things that they wish to, spread out across the world. And one being is storytelling. So we had the opportunity to meet with videographers as well as photographers that work in National Geographic. They worked with us to make sure we knew how to document our experiences abroad. We also had an opportunity to work with an expert from Google who taught us different tools. There are new applications out through the Google Earth that we were able to be trained on. They also taught us how to use 360 theta cameras, which take 360 photos of the locations that we were going to so that we could use all this information in our classrooms and our communities. So that was a really great opportunity. Plus, I got to meet my partner in crime, Rachel, who went along. I had never met her. It was just a random selection of how that was selected. And I also got to meet a naturalist. While you're abroad, the ships that we're on, you're with people that are actually from the area that are the experts, and they help train and provide information so that we are as most knowledgeable as we possibly can be. So just to let you guys know where all the fellows go, we have 17 that went to the Arctic Circle. That starts from Alaska, it goes through Canada, Iceland, Greenland, and Norway. They have different trips for that area, as well as Antarctica. 6 got to brave the swells down there. They get 25 feet high, so glad I wasn't selected on that one. And then 12 of us went to the Galapagos Islands. So that's just in general. They've been doing this for, this is their 12th year. They just announced their new class for 2018. And I, again, will say this is just a great resource to actually put teachers in the field. It's great to talk about all these places, but to be there, it really brings it home, and we're able to share it, obviously, back with our communities. So before I show you guys some photos, I just wanted to kind of show you the area if you're not familiar. I did not get to travel to all the islands just because they are quite large. I was on the eastern half, so I started in San Cristobal, went down to Española, then Floriana, Santa Cruz. Many of you probably are familiar with this with Charles Darwin. This was one of the main islands that he was at, and this is where currently the Tortoise Rehabilitation and Breeding Center is located. That's a big deal because the Galapagos tortoise are only found there, and they were population was diminished quite a bit. Then we went up a little bit north to Santiago, across the equator. I did take a picture on the equator. It was quite exciting, and then ended up in Genovesa. So you can see I was just on the eastern half. Just so you guys are aware as well, this is a protected area. Although people live on 4 of the islands, most of the islands are covered by wildlife, and so because of that, they're kind of considered like how we have state parks here. We're limited on time on the island, so the human impact is limited. So majority of my time I was on the ship. However, we had hour to an hour and a half time on these different islands to see the different wildlife and the fauna and flora that's there. We also spent quite a bit of time snorkeling, and if anybody knows me, which I know several of you do, I'm not a morning person, but the marine life wakes up at 4:30, so I got to wake up at 4:30 and swim with them. So that was quite interesting. Again, certain animals that you can only find in this area. One of the favorite, if you've ever heard of the marine iguanas, they are the only iguanas that swim underwater and can hold their breath. Very unique, kind of almost Jurassic looking compared to some of the other animals. So this was my path. And I just thought I'd show you guys a couple of snapshots to see the unique wildlife that I got to see. Before I begin, just so you can kind of see a visual, this is myself on the right. In the center, this is Walter. He was one of our naturalists. He is an actual Galapagonian, is what they call. So he was born and raised, but then he had to go through specific training. Imagine a 4-year college to be a tour guide. And they are the only ones that can provide information and tours. It is a legal job in Ecuador. And then to the left is Rachel Rostigan, that teacher from Topeka, Kansas. And we are on called the Bird Island. They are covered with over 1 million birds in the area. This is Genovesa. Many different animals, sea lions being one of the most popular. They are specific to there. Yes, we do have sea lions around the world, but these are the Galapagos sea lions. And if you will notice, they are actually not sleeping, but sunning. The water, like I said, is not very close, the islands are not very close to the continent, so the water is very cold. Most days when we were in there is about 40 degrees to 50 degrees, so they're warming up. And I think, again, if many of you are familiar with Charles Darwin, these are the famous finches that he studied. This is the one example of many. This is the short ground finch on San Cristobal. And then, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the boobies. My 6th graders love saying that word. But this is a Nazca booby, and they have the black brownish feet, and this one's about to take flight. There are the blue-footed. Those are the popular, but I thought I'd show you some of the different ones. And of course, the giant tortoises. This is actually at the Rehabilitation Center, which again is just kind of showing their really focus of trying to rebuild that population. And if you're not aware, these are the old tortoises. Most of them live to be 100, if not older, and they're obviously quite large, so hence their name. Land iguanas, which are different than the marine iguanas, and they're on specific islands, different coloration, so it's great to just kind of see the different species. And then this is another booby, but this one is the red-footed booby. They don't have very pretty feathers, but their feet and their beaks are very magnificent, excuse me, as far as just how they have evolved from the different species that are there. And then one of my favorite in the water is the sea lions, to be able to swim with them. Just as a side note, you are not allowed to touch any animals, but if they do come close in proximity like this, you're allowed to kind of interact with them. And I'll tell you, this is probably my favorite part, is being in the water. It was really interesting because the islands drop off, they're volcanic, and so you'll see the lava rock on one side, but on the other side, it's pretty much just ocean. There's anywhere from 300 to 500 foot drops, so you really can't see much 10 feet to one side of you. So animals and fish were swimming in and out quite a bit. A little startling when sharks would come through, but is what it is, right? Okay. So,
glad you told your parents that after.
Yeah, they weren't too big. So although this experience was wonderful, I learned quite a bit. I took so many notes, so many photographs, videos. I was able to really take in everything that the naturalist said. Obviously, Rachel and I worked quite a bit together. What was kind of the next part? So post-expedition, there are several things that I have done, will continue to do. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. One responsibility that I have done and currently are still doing are working on lesson plans with Lincoln Magnet 6th grade students. They're getting an extensive background, not only on the animals, but I also, since I'm a world history teacher, really wanted to look at the culture. The Galapagonian culture is much different from the mainland Ecuador culture, and so I've spent quite a bit of our time looking at that, so they have a familiarity of what people are like around the world, as well as a project. They're currently working on a technology project since I work at Lincoln Magnet, and they'll be presenting those next month for the 4th quarter. I also am getting Nat Geo certified, which is a new certification process. It's pretty intensive, and I'm quite excited. As I know Nicole will share, my 6th grade team is also becoming certified. So, and our hope is that maybe our whole building at one point will be certified, will be a fully certified school. And what that means is just that we will have training specific with their framework, as well as having extra resources that other teachers across the country don't have. I'm also giving presentations. I currently, like today, presenting. I presented at the Rotary Club of Springfield Sunrise, and I will also be presenting, like I said, in May at a later date. And I'm going to be asking not only people within our school district, but also community people that are interested, not just family and friends, but anybody that would like to come. It's going to be an open community event. And then I would also like to mention resources for the district. As you mentioned, I'm obviously using things within my classroom, which is great, but I want more people to kind of experience the Galapagos. So one big thing that has happened, we recently did a Geo Challenge in our 7th grade. Every student participated, and this is not with my kind of fellowship. This has to do with their own side project with National Geographic, and they looked at the migration patterns of animals and how to overcome some obstacles that they were coming up against, whether it be issues in the water or crossing certain land paths. And we actually had 3 groups from our 7th grade actually make it to regionals, and this last Friday they went to the regionals at Illinois State in Bloomington, which is really quite exciting, and we actually had one team finish first. So we're super excited. So yeah, it's a big deal. And then the other thing, going back to our curriculum that we're creating across the middle schools, I've been able to create with other teachers some of the tools that I've learned from my experience. I had an opportunity through this program to actually travel to Seattle, Washington, and work specifically with Google Earth on their new Earth product. Google Earth is now a web-based program. You no longer have to have a separate application on your device. And so because of that, I've worked with 6 other teachers at the other middle schools, and we've created a lot of assignments and projects using Google Earth. And so you'll notice that there. I actually have a quick example to just kind of show you a visual of what our classrooms look like. So this isn't related necessarily to Galapagos, but one of our big units that was mentioned already is cultural diversity. We're really trying to expand the background of our students of other places, other people, not only what do they look like, but what do they do, what are their customs, their cultures. So we had students investigate randomly. There's a button now on Google Earth called I'm Feeling Lucky, and it takes them randomly to a place place, and they had to identify just by looking at quick pictures of the places what the culture is and how they knew that using that tool. And just one more to kind of show too, what's really great about these assignments is they're collaboration assignments. So they're not working solo, they're working with partners, and so they're really able to not only expand their ability levels, but to share that with other classmates and really grow in their inquiry skills. And that's kind of our main goal currently of the conceptual teaching. So that's just one way. And again, this isn't just done at my school, this has been done at all the other middle schools. Again, regardless of their ability level, we have changed it to match it. So also future impact. I'm going to be continuing to do this, but I really so far have come away with quite a bit from this experience. I'm very, very proud, obviously, not only to be a district employee, but a former student. And I've been able to kind of see through my stages really how not only my experience will impact our district, but how it's going to impact you know, kind of our outlook as a whole. So one big thing I think I've really been appreciative is that a spotlight in Springfield, Illinois. I'm the first from downstate to get the National Geographic Fellowship. So people now know who Springfield, Illinois is. And you know, we're an urban school district. We have such unique and diverse school students, and we have so much to offer. So it's been really great because I've taken our school to the National Geographic headquarters. I've taken them to Google Earth. I've taken them to Apple. And so people are really seeing that we are not just a school district downstate from Chicago, Illinois. We are an amazing school district filled with amazing people just like me, amazing children that no matter what we ask them to do, they rise every day. So it's just been a really cool moment for me to reflect and have, I don't know, kind of that clarity to go, wow, we're pretty amazing. And little, I guess not that little, but smaller than some of our bigger cities near us, that we're a pretty amazing place. Again, just to kind of reiterate, our curriculum development is just kind of skyrocketed because of this. We're still going to continue to get more resources from National Geographic, as well as some other opportunities. Mrs. Hine and I were just recently talking about some opportunities for children to travel abroad and write scholarships on the Lindblad expeditions, and really just to kind of take that to the next level for our students to experience the world. And also just kind of look at the local and global ecology. It was really great to see how the Galapagonians live with these animals and in their environment. They are very protective of them, and they have found a way to incorporate that in their daily life to ensure that these species last. So it's also to show why that's so important in our current world, but also here in Illinois. What can we do to ensure that our environments and our ecosystems are sustainable as we interact with them day in and day out? And then last but not least, my main goal as a teacher, there's many of them, but one big one is I want to influence future global explorers. That is probably one of the biggest things I do every day when I walk in there, because we have some students that have never left Springfield, Illinois. And I am a connection to the outside world because we can trust teachers, and if you can trust your teacher and you can give hope and, I don't know, some kind of glimmer that I can be like that one day, then we've done our job. Do I expect them to go all over the world? No. But if that encourages them to go to another state or to research something when they go to higher education, or if they're just at home Googling something just to get them excited about learning about somewhere new, then I have done my job. And I can see that that's happening day in and day out. So, okay, so that's it. I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything to ask. And this is the red-footed booby's beak up close. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Okay.
Thank you so
much. Yes, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'll give a little transition time here and have Mrs. Boozer come up, and Mr. Gilmore, I believe you're going to join us as principal at Ridgely for this presentation. Nice.
Sorry.
You take as many.
She documents everything.
Yes, she does. All right, so as you all know, earlier this year we started a new balanced assessment program, including the measures of academic progress, the MAP assessment. And just to give you a little context for what the MAP has done for us, this is a norm referenced assessment, so we can compare achievement of our students and changes in achievement status or growth throughout the school year on the various administrations of this assessment. And we're comparing these to the students' performance in the same grade level at the same time of school year. Really, it's a nationally norm assessment. So we're comparing ourselves to students who are the same age, in the same grade level across the country. And this really gives us a good indicator of where students are in the progress, but it also breaks it down into the various strands so that we can really see how we're doing on a standards-based approach as well. We have kind of an overview for you today. We gave the assessment for the first time at the beginning of the school year, and we're headed in. We just finished our second administration, and then in May, we'll head into our third administration. But I've been very excited about the work that the schools have been doing about analyzing the data, using their professional learning community time on Wednesday afternoons to do this work, and then the next steps that the teachers are designing based on this administration. So this is our first time that we've had an opportunity to look at growth. And then now the teachers are using that to make specific plans for their classroom. And the good thing about the MAP assessment, this will continue to go on throughout a child's schooling. So if you had a second grader this year and they've had the first data point at the beginning of their second grade career, they've just gotten the second data point, and then as they go on, they'll have the third data point at the end, and then they'll continue that growth through their third grade progress. And so parents alike can see how their child is progressing over time. And that's going to give us a lot of great information, not only for the classroom, for the district as a whole, for the work that we're doing, but also the individual parents as well that get those reports. And I should not mention the students who really have a growth mindset around their own progress in the classroom. So Sheila Boozer is our Director of Teaching and Learning, and she's here to share with you a little bit about the progress that we've seen in a presentation. But then Mr. Gilmore, who's the principal at Ridgely, is here to talk about how the teachers and the students are interacting with the data and how you're sharing that information with the families. All right. Mrs. Boozer?
Thank you, Superintendent Gill, and members of the board. I don't have an exciting photo array of things to show. I haven't been to Ecuador or Santiago and those places, but I do have the privilege of working right here in District 186, and I'm excited about it.
Yes.
And I get to work with all the kids and the teachers and look at data. And the other thing is, I'm not asking you for any money this time.
No money.
Okay, so Superintendent Gill already kind of laid the groundwork for you about why we're going to do this presentation, and I promise I'm not going to be very long. So the MAP assessment, we gave the very first one in the fall, and then we did it again in the winter time, and it assesses both math and literacy. It's untimed, it's computer adapted to the students' needs, so wherever the students happen to be, that's where they test. So if you keep getting the answers correct, the questions keep getting more difficult and it keeps going up. But if you start missing things, and it adapts down to where the student happens to be. This is why we really enjoy this assessment. And it's K-12, and it's in reading and math, and the timeline we gave it was in January 16th through February 9th of 2018. And the beauty of this also is this connects right to our district improvement goals, and so the goals are right there. I'm not going to read that to you, but just know that we set these goals based upon projected growth for our students, and I just can't say enough that this is not like Park where you're waiting or trying to get to a certain attainment level. It's all about individual student growth and where they are. So I want to reiterate, it's really about growth, okay? So what we see here, what we hear is a chart from our fall to winter comparisons. And so in the fall, 54% of our students, K-12, were at the 41st percentile or above. And in the winter, in reading, they were at 53%. So it just dropped just a little bit, but they were 54 to 53, so not really much to look at. But we also want you to understand that when you look at these scores in math, also, it is what you see, the blue bar graphs are the actual growth that they made. It represents the observed growth that the students had. And then the circles, the orange dots and circles, are what were projected for them to grow to. So if you'll take a look there, you'll see that the benchmark also is a 50th percentile. So anything that was 50% or above of what we wanted to grow to is what you see. And so this is a formative assessment that's focused on growth, and it's not attainment. And so if you take a peek there, you'll see that our 8th grade students reading actually hit the projected growth. They hit it and went just a little bit above it, our 8th grade students in reading. So we were really excited about that. So they were at 59%, and the actual projected target was 50%, but they hit the 59th percentile. So we're excited about that chart there. And then what you see next is broken down by subgroups in reading. And all of our subgroups showed on or above the average projected growth in at least one grade level. Subgroup growth basically is a reflective of our overall growth in our school district. So what you see is basically by our different subgroups. So they're representing the overall growth that you see both in math and in reading. And then of course, there are no growth norms for 11th and 12th grade due to the number of students who take the test in those grades across the country for whatever reason. We're not quite sure, probably because most of the students who are in those grade levels are taking more advanced courses, and so we don't hit that too hard. So if you see those there. Then the next one is math. And what we have here, we're celebrating the fact that our K through 2nd grade students were above the typical projected growth. And that means they were better than projected. So we're really excited about that. So again, the blue bars are the actual observed growth, and the orange circles were the projected growth. And again, there are no national norms for 11th or 12th grade, so that's why you don't see anything there.
So wait a minute, come on. Your projections, like for kindergarten, it appears to say that it's slightly above the one stop. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So what, what's that on the side, RIT?
The red score?
That's the name of
That's the name of the score.
Okay, but the numbers, tell me what that means again.
The
14 down.
The numbers are the growth that they actually made, in the percentile growth that they made, that you see along the sides there. And across the bottom, of course, are the grade levels. But when we look at when we looked at this data in teaching and learning very closely, those just let you know the steps that they took to get, to get to that projected mark that they were working toward. But from this one right here, this graph right here is just letting us know that what our kids were supposed to be able to do, they exceeded when it was past the orange dot. I'm not quite sure exactly. Yeah, those are steps. So if they were below the projected, the 50 percentile mark, then it would be lower. So you're starting at the 0, and anything below that, it was negative growth. Anything above that was positive growth.
Okay, so 0 represents 50%?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
and then anything
so
below that is negative growth.
Explain to me why the 12th grade is below on
because because there is no national norm. We don't have any data for that from the national, and this is all based upon national norms.
Is it being developed?
Well, we've talked to the people in MAP, and they don't have anything yet. So what we're looking at doing is seeing what we can do to perhaps create some district norms so that we have that information for ourselves based upon district norms. So that's a conversation we're having with MAP, and then we also have some other data gurus that are at our fingertips to help us with that. So by this being only the first time we've given this, we don't have that kind of information to use yet.
I see Renee out in the crowd. I think, have we had a conversation about the 11th and 12th grade, or just, is it motivation? Is it?
Some of it is motivation.
Yeah.
And the communication of, did the students understand the purpose of this test? And if they don't understand that purpose, and if it's not communicated to them the proper way, then they don't see a benefit. It's not associated with the grade. So grades is one thing sometimes. And so we have had conversations with our math department chairs about that, and in collaboration with
Well, I happen to have one of those at home, and I know, Reka, maybe you can chime in a little bit, because I had this conversation. I was like a little frustrated when I saw the scores, and we didn't have a norm to go by, but still going below the 50th percentile, seeing that drop below was a little bit bothersome. And the conversation around the dinner table was, why do we take it? Is it going to be on our transcript for college? And the answer is no. It's just really to let us know how students are doing individually in their classroom, and let the teachers know how well they're performing. And since it is computer adapted, the harder you try, the more success you have, you know, but if you just are kind of plugging in answers, you're going to continue to get that lower level question, and it's not going to take you to those higher levels. So I think it does have to be about educating the student as to the purpose of taking the assessment.
They're focused, you know, students, as having a freshman in college myself, was focused on ACT. Of course, this was before we had math, but their focus is ACT and getting that score to get scholarship to a certain level, you know, those kinds of things. So I think it's having conversations about all of our assessments and the purpose for all of them.
But the other thing we have to keep in mind, again, this is not about attainment, it's about the growth of the students. So if you are not in rigorous coursework, by the time you get to 11th and 12th grade, it's going to be very difficult to show that kind of growth. And also, the higher you already are, it is more difficult to make that growth as well. So that's why you're always going to see more growth at the lower level, because they still have a lot they're learning. But by the time you get to this level, it's more difficult to show that kind of gain in growth. So this really just shows where our kids are right now, and so it gives us where we are and what we can do to drive that instruction and get more kids into the rigorous coursework.
Right.
So, in translating that into more so-called more rigorous coursework, a teacher has this is April the 9th. Those kids, like the kids I just went through an expulsion hearing with that were making F's and D's and stuff like that, how are they going to benefit from this if you got 7 weeks left in the school year?
The beauty of it is, it's as soon as they take the assessment, the very next day they have the data. And the data is broken down for the teachers to see how it informs their instruction. It shows where the kids happen to be right there where they're ready to learn, so they don't have to go and figure it all out. It gives them ideas and suggestions and actually clear-cut interventions to use. It's connected to the learning standards that we teach. It helps us also identify those students who may have a gap in the courses that they've taken when we're looking at curriculum mapping. So if I'm always going to be in a class that doesn't cover geometry, and geometry is an area that I'm seeing on here that needs some more work, then that helps us figure out how we can get there. So teaching and learning, teachers, principals, we're all learning new to this information, and it's really giving them some great ideas on how to do those things. And Mr. Gilmore is going to kind of talk a little bit about how his teachers are utilizing that information. So it's not just the kids who are in the regular classrooms, but also students who are in the alternative programs have access to this, and the teachers do as well. So it can kind of help them fill in the blanks and the gaps for them as well.
Rika, you took it as a 12th grader this year, so what's your input?
I think you guys are definitely spot on with like the idea that the students don't know the purpose of the test. So before I was like on the board, I really didn't know like why we were taking math testing. The teachers just kind of like say, we have to do this test. It's almost like it's a burden on them, like taking away from class time, which I understand that, but they kind of just say like, we have to take this test, here's the password, sign in, do your best, and then when you're done, just put your computer away. So I think a lot of it was just we were unaware. And also for me with the math, I know that I've taken a lot of AP math classes, so I would say I'm a little bit higher and a little bit more advanced in math than a lot of the high schoolers. And for me, when I was taking the math, I had taken Algebra 2 and Geometry as freshman and sophomore. So that information for me was a long time ago, so I don't really remember that kind of stuff. I'm doing more like advanced work. So the problems were more focused on, it starts off like slow with like Algebra 2, Geometry, and that kind of stuff was more difficult for me because I took that so long ago, and now I'm doing like all this advanced stuff, and they don't have that kind of math.
You would have to be there for hours taking it to get to that level.
Right,
yeah,
like,
so I get it. Yeah.
That was kind of like what I struggled with as I saw like the problems. I was like, oh shoot, I used to know how to do this like freshman, sophomore year, but as like you progress, you don't use all that information. You just kind of, you know what I'm saying? So.
And that's when and MAP said the same thing to us. That's why they don't have a lot of the norm data for 11th and 12th grade for those students who are in the more advanced classes, such as calculus and the things of that nature. So we're taking a look at to see, do we still want to continue offering it to those students or not? So we're still having those conversations. So that's an excellent point.
If I may interject something, and you said a mouthful there, and I think we need to address it. It should not be a burden for any teacher.
Right.
Yeah.
It's part of the program. It's to help you, to help them. And so we need to address that. I don't want people thinking it's a burden.
Thank
It's not
you.
a burden.
Thank
It's
you.
an assist.
And we did have conversations with administrators when we met with them, and all administrators are aware of this, and gave them some talking points of what to say and how to present this to your teachers and how your teachers should present it to the students. So yeah, you're absolutely 100% correct on that. And so we're hoping to see that from the first administration all the way to the third one we give it in the spring, that students understand and taking it more serious, and that it doesn't feel like it's one more thing that we have to do or it's a burden. So thank you for that support, because we are in total agreement with that.
And the explanation needs, it sounds like it needs to be clearer as to the purpose to the students. Why am I doing this? And there needs to be a clearer understanding.
And I will say, you also notice that a lot of the elementary schools have done a lot better because they took the time out. Because when we did this rollout, there are video clips to show the kids about what MAP is, what it does for them, for kids and for parents and for teachers, and they showed those, and it was available for everyone to see those, so you can tell which ones did that, took the time to do that and explain what it is, and it's in kid-friendly terms. Kids are talking about it, they explain it, so we'll continue pushing that, because I totally agree with you. The kids need to know and understand what this is about and how it's going to benefit them.
And there's a different explanation, I would think, because their elementary curriculum is so consistent, supposedly. And when you get to middle school and you start electing your own classes, then, you know, the priorities become different. But we don't want to, that kid in the middle, you know, I'm always concerned about the kid in the middle. We have got to do something, but make sure that their learning is consistent. I think that was the original purpose of some of this.
Yes.
So, it gets those.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we're excited about that piece, so we'll make sure we hit that for you as well. Well, for the kids too. The next one is just the math subgroups. Same thing, it just shows the number of students and grade levels that have met or exceeded the expected growth. And then what we have next are slides that show which of our schools, elementary, middle, and high school, that have showed the highest growth in reading and in math. So anything in the white, they hit the 50th percentile expected growth or above, and then in the pink is anything that was the 70th percentile in growth or above. So we're really excited about this.
70th.
70th, yes, anything in pink.
So if I read this correctly, in math, Jane Addams Elementary hit the 70th percentile or above in every single grade level.
In math, yes ma'am, that is absolutely correct.
Almost in reading.
In math, and almost in reading.
Yes.
I bet you they were close.
Yes. Next schools.
So that begs the question, in my mind at least. Next year you'll have data to see if this is consistent. That way it can feed into teacher evaluation also.
And many of the teachers are utilizing MAP data to write their student learning objectives, which are part of their evaluation.
And then we have middle schools in here as well, and high schools. And so the next piece is just quickly want to tell you how we're using this data. We use this data to set district level data, and we do analysis, and we do student goal setting with teachers and students. And just to what Ms. Johnson was talking about, we use it to set growth targets for teachers with SLOs. But we're really trying to make sure that we're not slamming teachers based upon student growth, because this is not an attainment piece. This is where kids are and how we're helping them to grow. So it's that personal growth for each and every student. It's not what the whole classroom is doing. It is by each and every student. We don't want to slam teachers for kids not growing, but we also want to make sure teachers are using this data to help their students grow, if that makes sense. We're also using it for parent-teacher conferences that has some of the best reports that parents can see what their own kids are doing, how well they're doing, what their strengths are, what areas that they need to work on. We use it for data days, which Mr. Gilmore talked about that, grade level planning. It helps with problem solving, IEP identification, things of that nature. So it's really a powerful tool, and we're still learning all the things that it can possibly do. So Mr. Gilmore is going to talk a little bit about what they do at Ridgely Elementary School.
Hello, everybody. At Ridgely, we've been really excited, especially our mid-year data days, and you can see a picture I took of some of our first grade teachers. About a week before our data days, we met on a Wednesday with each of the different grade levels and pulled up their map information for reading and math, and they wrote each student's name on a Post-it, a different color for reading and a different color for math. And they put the score, and then they looked from the beginning of the year data to the mid-year data to see if that student, each individual student, increased or for whatever reason didn't show an increase. And so they drew an arrow that went up or an arrow that went down. And then they included any additional information that they wanted to include, Envision math data, DRA data. And then when we got to the meeting, we divided the dry erase board into 4 different categories, starting with the 10 percentile or below, all the way up to the top category, the 41 percentile or above. And the teachers put each of their students based on their score in one of those categories. So then when we pulled back, the teachers could see not only where their students fell, but across the whole grade level where everybody fell. And then from that, we were able to look at Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions in the classroom, as well as more intensive supports outside the classroom. And then we had some really good discussions as to why those students improved or why they didn't improve. And we were able to reveal a little bit about some of the skills kids were missing so we could better support those individual students. So we're really looking forward to our end of the year data.
So Tier 1, I understand it would be those interventions that you can do with the whole class on a daily basis, either through whole group instruction or small group instruction in the classroom. Tier 2 might be some of those intervention groups that you put together that are kids that have a certain skill deficit and you're trying to get them to that next level. So I think that speaks to your students who need that extra bump, that are in the middle and need to get that extra bump. And then Tier 3 would be more intensive students who are maybe on that lower tier that you talked about that need really intense instruction to get back on track. That's how you
Yes,
define.
and
I'm
actually,
kind of going through. I know sometimes we education speak,
Just
so I'm just
jumping
trying
through
to
our
explain
tiers.
it. Yes.
And we also have a resource teacher data days. So we meet within all the resource teachers as well, and we look at those students in the Tier 3, and we try to, we don't take up all the teachers' time with that, but we come up with our own plan for those students as well, so everybody gets what they need.
Okay.
Okay. And that's just a picture there of what it looks like, what he was describing with all the sticky notes. So overall, what have we learned through this process? We've learned in math, the students are showing growth at levels K through 2. We're also realizing and understanding that we're attributing this to the second year of implementing the Envision 2.0 curriculum, and it's aligned to our state standards. It is more rigorous than what kids have been doing in the past, and so we're attributing the growth there. In reading, we're learned that students are not showing as much growth in reading yet, because we have to understand, and also with math is very concrete and structured for the most part, but with reading, it's multifaceted, and we realize that in K2, students are generally learning how to read, and from grades 3 and up, they're reading to learn. So that's why we were excited about getting this comprehensive assessment, formative assessment, because it helped us with assessing comprehension. That gives us some immediate feedback and guides instruction in the classroom, and that helps us our teacher provide that just-in-time intervention that kids need. So we're really excited about that. And overall, and we also, with the new reading units of study that is going across all of our elementary buildings and into the middle schools now, this is the first year with that. And you hear teachers say kids are really loving to read. They're not fake reading anymore, and they're actually getting a chance to understand what they're reading and what's going on. So we're really excited about our new curriculum in reading for that. And then also our MAP developers say that it's typical to have that mid-year scores dip just a little bit. They don't know why. And so we weren't satisfied with that, so we said we're going to investigate the why for 186 and see if we can figure it all out. And then the projected growth is not enough sometimes for all students, but they're still growing. So some kids need to grow more than the increase than what they're projecting in order for them to catch up. And then we still have a lot of work we need to do in some grade levels and in some subgroups, and we know that. And so we're going to continue working with teaching and learning with our principals and teachers. So the last piece here is our next steps and our actions. And so for reading, we're setting next step goals with students to help them to move up in their levels of text complexity. That means we're trying to give them more time to read. We also introduced the MAP K2 skills checklist, which is part of MAP, that the teachers did not have the first two implementations or administrations of this assessment. And we're excited to have that because what it'll do is it'll help them identify which foundational skills, because again, we talked about their learning to read. So which foundational skills like letter sounds, diagraphs, blends that each child is ready to learn. And then it's going to help the teacher set individual goals with their students, and then they can check the goals for mastery using an assessment tool that only takes 2 to 3 minutes for each kid to do. And then sometimes you don't have to worry about teaching a missing skill to the whole class when only maybe half of them have this missing skill. So it's tailored to the individual needs of the students, and so that's exciting. So you don't have to just kind of keep doing the same thing for everybody when everybody doesn't need it. So it's more structured and diversified in that regard, and so gives teachers more time to assess each student individually. And then also in math, we're excited because it's helping us to explore interventions and supports the students' need in math. And then we're also looking to see what we can do as an organization on teaching math and learning those basic foundational skills. So it's helping us with that. And then overall, it's helping us strengthen our tier 1, our core instruction that everyone is responsible for getting every day, and everyone is responsible for teaching both in reading and math, K-12. It's helping us to identify testing differences and conditions between fall and winter, just as our student board member mentioned. If they didn't know what it was all about, or if it wasn't presented in a manner that it made any difference, so we're checking into that as well. So, and then also providing more professional development on learning about all the data at the different levels, because we know we have a lot of data, but we want to be able to use that data in a meaningful way. And so we just want to be able to tap into those schools also that the pink and the white and the chart stuff, who are showing a tremendous growth, and what are you doing consistently, and sharing that information across the board with all the other schools. So that concludes what I have. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to 6.1, the financial report. Superintendent Gill.
Mr. Basco, and we have some good news to share this time around. So we found out this week, and I sent out a memo to all the board members, that we did get our evidence-based funding model number. The money has not started to flow yet, but we do expect that to be vouchered within the next 6 general state aid payments. And that number for us was around 1.48 million. So that will be added, and that will be divided out over those 6 payments and given to us so that we can utilize that funding even this school year. So I know that's good news. I know we still have some categoricals that we're waiting on. Nothing ever flows perfectly, but I'll turn it over for your financial report overall.
President Lopez, members of the board, for March, education fund revenues were $4,938,000 and expenditures totaled $9,783,000, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $4,845,000. In the operations and maintenance fund, revenue were $187,000 and expenditures $1,176,000, with expenditures exceeding revenues by $988,000. And as Mrs. Gill mentioned, at the end of March, outstanding state payments were $4.8 million.
Do we, those have been vouchered, or do we know for the categoricals?
They've been vouchered by the state, but they haven't gone to
released anywhere out of
the comptroller hasn't released the money yet.
So we have good news and bad news on those kind of things. You know, you get your evidence-based funding model, and that's still not at the full level of funding. In this year's budget, there was $350 million extra dollars to separate across the state. That was done based on the need of each district, and we come in about 70 or 67% adequacy, and so that allowed our district to get the 1.48 million bump for our general state aid, where other districts got more money depending on their need, or other districts got less money depending on their need. In this model, the way it played out, there was no districts who had lost money in the deal, which helped, I think, in the overall passing. But, there's still being recommended by the state board an increase of another $700 million or more to make us fully adequate across the state and divided up amongst all of us. But the 1.48 number is finally good for us to have so that we can start planning to how we can utilize that dollars based on the evidence-based funding model, and we'll bring more information back to the board about how that money can be spent and ideas that we have. That money has not been budgeted. We did not want to budget for money that we did not know if we would get, and we never knew the number officially until now. So is there anything else that you would add to that conversation?
No, I think that sums everything up.
And that money does go into the ed fund?
Yes, it does.
So you would prorate that money for this, part of it for this school year and part of it for next school year?
Well, that will go into all this school year's money.
All of this school year's money?
Yes.
We'll get it over 6 payments.
Okay, so when are you going to have some information to us about how you might project to use it?
At the next board meeting. Like I said, the money has not come yet, so we'll get the first installment, hopefully, April 10th is when it's vouchered.
Supposed to do, so we should get it probably Wednesday.
Yeah. We've got a lot of textbooks we're behind in purchasing. We've got old textbooks that we're utilizing. There's a lot of things. Of course, this time of year, you can't purchase people or positions, but you could for next school year, knowing the number that we have now. But that would be in next year's budget. We would be able to count on this 1.48, hopefully, in the new budget that comes out.
So you can let us know whether you get the money Wednesday or not.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We certainly will.
Not next board meeting, we want to know.
No,
this
but we'll
week.
have the ideas for how to pay for it, but we'll let you know immediately when we get the money, just like I did the other day when I got the number.
Okay.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And Joe, that'll all be distributed before the end of the fiscal year?
Yes.
June 30? Thank you.
That's what's proposed, yes.
We do get those, that is part of the money that we do get on time, all
The
the
general
time.
state
So
aid.
we will get that money.
All right. We're going to 7.1.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I had a couple shout outs, but before we could start, if we could bow our head in silence for a minute. We lost the former NAACP branch president and longtime supporter of District 186, Rudy Davenport, this week. He passed away on Saturday. He's had a big influence in our community, but also most definitely on our school district. Thank you, and our thoughts are with his family and friends. I wanted to give a shout out also to Ms. Irma Lott, Mrs. James, and Principal Doug Goss, and to all of the volunteers and the students who helped make the Wilcox Elementary annual Black History Month play Henry Box Brown a huge success. That happened right before we headed off into our spring break last week. The students did a phenomenal job in their performance, and we really thank all of those who made it possible. We have a great picture up on our main banner. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell, for putting that up. It's adorable. Some of the stars of that play. And also a shout out and congratulations to Franklin Middle School 8th grader Olivia Bema, who qualified for the National History Bee and the National Geography Bee. That's quite an undertaking. And so we're excited, and we'll obviously want to honor her at an upcoming board meeting as well. And then we already mentioned it earlier when Lane Zimmers was here to present that Lincoln Magnet School was selected to advance to the National Geographic Regional Competition at ISU this last week, and it was a challenge called On the Move. It invited students to learn about the problems facing migratory species while building skills in geography, map making, storytelling, and video production. But I want to especially thank Ms. Mitchell, Mrs. Ballinger, Mrs. Erickson, Mrs. Muth, and Ms. Moskis for their hard work and dedication to the project. These are teachers who put a lot of extra time into making this really able for the students, and they ended up soaring and coming out with a great placement that Mrs. Zimmers announced earlier. So that was some great excitement. Later on in the board meeting here, when we go into our roll call and consent agenda items, we're going to talk about a agreement with Memorial Health Systems that I'm pretty excited about. So as we talked about earlier, we have been on a journey of creating a system that can help us drive down our overall health cost spend in the district and also benefit the employee. And we just want to give a shout out again to Local 15. Mark Goringer's here, Krista Wiedekamp from the Springfield Education Association. They've been along our side talking with the different, we sent out a huge RFQ and had a lot of different companies come and present. Mr. Zimmers, you sat in on behalf of the board, and I appreciate that. But in the end, Memorial Health Systems came up with the best proposal that had the best rate of return for our district, and we are excited to bring this agreement with you tonight. So what our employees will have at their fingertips now are 5 dedicated Memorial Healthcare clinics in Springfield. They're Prompt Care and Express Care that will provide services now for 0 copay. And so that's a big cost savings. In addition, the way that this is all working out, we're going to be able to have a lower rate of increase on health insurance overall in our district, which could save a teacher that has a family membership up to $250 a school year on their health care benefits. And so that's also a big cost savings. Teachers will also have access to free virtual health care, which is sort of a wave of the present and future. People being able to go online and utilize kind of a telenurse or a virtual online nurse or doctor free of charge. That is usually a $40 pay. If you go to any Memorial Clinic now, it says for $40. That will now be accessible to our teachers that have our health insurance for free of cost, and that is a 24-hour service. So you can think as a young parent, you have a big concern, you can call online and get this dedicated health information free of charge. It also involves, I'm sorry?
You say teachers, but is it all personnel or
It's
just
all
teachers?
personnel, I should say.
Okay.
Any of our staff in the district that have our insurance. Our nurse concierge service as well. If you need to see a specialist, if you want to get into your regular care provider, you can call them and they'll help you get in to your regular care provider, hopefully within 24 hours, or make an appointment for you with those specialists. It may take a few weeks for you to get in, but they'll be able to make that appointment for you, and we'll have some benefits of doing that. In addition, we're going to help our employees with managed healthcare plans. So if there is something that they're struggling with, they have a chronic illness or a chronic concern, and they accept this work with the managed healthcare plans with patients' permission, we can help them manage their chronic illnesses and help them get them on the right path for healthcare and ensure that they are managing their healthcare on a regular basis. All of this is going to be free. Biometrics, health risk assessments, and wellness programs will be offered across the district. We are going to receive 5 free wellness programs, which teachers can utilize and benefit from across the district as well, and that will be a free service. Hospital stays will have a 5% rebate if you use Memorial Hospital. But one thing I should say is this does not mandate that a teacher and or any of our employees throughout the district stop using doctors and our other systems across our community. That was never the goal or the intent. So if you already have a provider with SIU, Springfield Clinic, or HSHS, you can still utilize that. There's no penalty for utilizing one of those doctors, but you will have to follow their copays. And if you don't choose Memorial, the 5% rebate to the district will not come back. However, we also know that you can still use the virtual care for free. You can still go to one of those other clinics for free, 0 copay, if you choose to go to one of the prompt care. So there are some benefits, but there's no downfall to having this agreement, and we really appreciate that. There are also significant guarantees in the contract so that we are guaranteed to have savings to our district, and our projected savings for this year is close to $790,000. Okay. So with that, we will push that right back into our employees so that they, once again, have that lower cost of their health insurance, and then it also helps the overall spend of the district to our employees as well. Mr. Basco, you've worked along my side with all of this. Is there anything else that I've missed that you would like to add?
One thing I think I neglected to tell you was late last week, Memorial did add 3 more clinics, I believe.
Oh, really? So we're up to 7.
Petersburg, Jacksonville, and I think the 3rd was Lincoln.
Okay.
And just as a side note, we already have staff, even though we haven't really even marketed this yet, we have staff calling our office asking about it. So,
Okay. And so we have a rollout plan and a communication plan. It will be very important for us to educate all of our staff as to the benefits. I was just talking with Mr. Goringer from Local 15, and I know that we've already got a plan with SEA in the works so that we can explain this to the teachers and they can feel that they have all the information at their fingertips to be able to utilize this plan. Once again, we've been researching these for about 3 years, and to have this come to fruition tonight and to have the numbers come out so favorable was a benefit. We're very excited to be on a partnership with Memorial Medical Center. And I should add that this is in cooperation with Sangamon County and all of their employees. By joining forces with Sangamon County, we were able to increase our employee pool, which then it helped with our rates going down and our return of investment being higher. We're not really connected to the county. They still have their employee group and all of their people that they serve, but we, together are pooling our interests, so to speak, so that we could drive down the costs. All right. So their county board will be voting on something similar tonight as we speak.
Sounds good.
And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. We're going to move on to consent action items, but we do have a speaker, so before we do any motions or anything, is it Scott Mumo? Mumo. If you want to come on up. It looks like you're speaking on agenda 8.5.
Yes.
Yes, so come on up to the mic.
We have to do that before we vote on it.
Before we
so,
vote on
yeah.
it. So you have 3 minutes to speak, and Ms. Hammers is our timer.
It will be on the screen now.
Oh.
We have a new system.
My understanding on item 8.5, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, is the district is providing paid for licensing and training. Is this for teachers who wish to get firearms training?
No, this is crisis prevention and intervention.
I am completely misunderstanding that.
Yeah, so this is about, Crisis Prevention Institute is actually something that helps our teachers learn de-escalation strategies with students, so we can learn to, talk calmly with them when they're in a state of crisis.
I completely misunderstood the purpose of crisis training. I don't know whether I was misled on that or not, but that's all I got.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so do I have a, I'm sorry, Superintendent Gill.
Okay, President Lopez and members of the board, I recommend approval of consent action items 8.2 through 8.10 as described in the corresponding resolutions.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? Okay. Discussion? Hearing none?
Johnson?
Aye.
Lopez?
Aye.
Mars?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Ringer?
Aye.
Sisti?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
All right. 9.1, Superintendent Gill.
Okay, tonight we have Mrs. Baker Brown filling in for Mrs. Sherman. So if you can go ahead and approval of personnel recommendations.
President Lopez and members of the board, the superintendent recommends adoption of the personnel recommendations as presented.
Have a motion?
Second.
You guys gonna coordinate this?
Yeah.
All right. Discussion? All right, hearing none.
Lopez?
Aye.
Mars?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Ringer?
Aye.
Sisti?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
Okay. 9.2, Superintendent Gill.
Okay, this is for a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2018 budget. Mr. Basco?
President Lopez, members of the board, the superintendent recommends approval of the following resolution. Now therefore be resolved to amend the school district's approved budget for FY 2018, and be it further resolved that this tentative amended budget be made available for public inspection in the school district's offices located at 1900 West Monroe Street, Springfield, Illinois, for a period of not less than 30 days beginning the 20th day of April 2018. Be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Board is directed to cause proper and legal notice and availability of the tentative amended budget for inspection to be published, and be it further resolved that the public hearing on this tentative budget be established for 6:30 p.m. on May 21st, 2018, and be it further resolved that at any time during this period of examination, the tentative amended budget that is on file might be further revised or amended.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, discussion?
Okay, so this is amendment based upon the funds, the new funds that we're receiving.
Right, right. This is later than we usually amend the budget, but we were waiting on that information. So we'll have more detailed numbers for you at the next board meeting.
Right, okay, so that's what my question was.
We'll give you a presentation and show you,
Okay.
yes.
So this will be, when will it be publicly posted so that they've got the 30 days? I mean,
That's on April 20th, so I'll get that.
so we'll know.
Yeah, I'll get that finished up
And
next
then
week.
we'll present it to you on the 23rd,
Right.
which is the next board meeting.
The legal document will be here on Monday. We can.
But as you know, you always get the information that week before, so we'll get that to you before we post it, and then we'll
Okay.
have the conversation on the 23rd.
All right.
Okay.
Ready for roll? Okay. Mars,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ringer,
Aye.
Sisti,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lopez.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
All right, 9.3, Superintendent Gill.
Mr. Basco?
President Lopez, members of the board, the superintendent recommends adoption of the following resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves and accepts the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois partially self-funded renewal recommendation for the contractual year beginning June 1st, 2018 and ending May 31st, 2019.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none?
Moore,
Aye.
Ringer,
Aye.
Sisti,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Mars.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
Okay, 9.4, Superintendent Gill.
Mr. Basco?
President Lopez, members of the board, the superintendent recommends approval of the following resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Springfield Public School District 186, in partnership with Sangamon County, Illinois, approves the Near Site Health Center agreement with Memorial effective as of June 1, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, question. How does this agreement affect the Blue Cross Blue Shield
Rates.
rates and stuff?
Well, it for this year, it brought it down about 2.4% over what the original projected amount was. So, and then hopefully in the
It brought it down
future.
2.4, but it's raising it down near 7.
Yes, the original projection was 9.4%.
Without the near site clinic model, we would have had to have charged that to the employee, but now we'll be able to take that savings and put it back into the employee having less of a percentage. But the health spend overall and the healthcare costs have gone up.
Right, we've had a expensive year.
And that is a minimal, I mean, that's the minimum that we think it'll go down. It could go down further. If we have a better year, then it'll go down even further than
Hopefully
that.
next year it'll be very low.
Okay, so so if I utilize Memorial, all of those charges are going into one pot from
Mhm.
the district
To
and then.
improve the employee.
All right.
It is not really for us to make money on, it's for the employees to have better health care at a lower cost.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about us making any money, we shouldn't.
Right, that's
But
right, it's
I-
all
you
for
know,
them, but I
people-
wanted to point that out.
I want to make it affordable for the employees that we do have.
We
you
do
know?
too.
Okay. All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Ringer,
Aye.
Sisti,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lopez,
Aye.
Mars,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
9.5, Superintendent Gill.
Okay, President Lopez and members of the board, I recommend approval of policy 235.01 regarding board member commitments.
A motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
I personally,
Yes.
think a little bit, it's a little wordy. I know I should have said something before now, but I think it's a little bit too much in there. So I'll vote present.
Okay, thank you.
Sisti,
Aye.
Zimmers,
Aye.
Johnson,
I'm going to vote present I have a major problem with point C.
C.
Okay. Lopez,
Aye.
Mars,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ringer.
Aye.
That is 6 aye votes and 1 present.
Okay. 9.6, Superintendent Gill.
President Lopez and members of the board, I recommend approval of revised policy 270.01 regarding board meeting agendas as it related back to the previous
Yep.
commitments. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have
So
a
moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none?
Zimmers,
Aye.
Johnson,
I will vote aye on that one.
Lopez,
Aye.
Mars,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Ringer,
Aye.
Sisti.
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
Okay. 9.7, Superintendent Gill.
President Lopez, members of the board, this is for the Board of Education to approve travel expenses for board member Judy Johnson to attend the AVID conference from June 11th through 14th of 2018.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a question. I would just like to understand, when we go to the Illinois School Boards Association conference, the school board members that attend are responsible for their hotel and their meals. And yet, with this proposal, Mrs. Johnson's hotel and meals, transportation and miscellaneous, all those costs will be paid for by the district. So why is there the disparity in how that's being handled?
When you go to the school board conference, we do pay for the registration
Right.
and for your travel.
Yes.
And in this case, the registration is waived.
Yes.
For AVID, so we're picking up the transportation and the hotel, and the room and board, so to speak. AVID is sort of to serve the district and to get training to help us build and grow our program, and she did participate actively in a program at Butler this year to help Butler become a demonstration site because of her training last year. The training builds on itself from one year to the next. So, you know, she's kind of getting phase 2 of the training from last year. We find it beneficial to have community members involved when we're applying to have like a different level of designation for our schools. We are very dedicated to AVID, and thank you for your support also ongoing with this. And we hope that maybe in the coming years we can have different board members attend to get this training. I know year 2 will help you get a deeper level of experience in this. So that's kind of my overall reasoning for it.
Well, I mean, comparing the
I don't charge
costs.
back my meals to the district.
What's that?
I don't charge back my meals to the district.
Okay, so, but they're covering your hotel.
Right.
That's
And,
inside
you know, and we're,
rather than
yeah.
outside.
And the board members that have attended.
Right, I think it's just,
we pay for our hotel.
And we paid for your registration for that one, but in
Right,
this case, we
yeah.
got that for free, so that's what we're.
So, you know, if you're covering transportation and miscellaneous, that pretty much equates to what is being paid for the registration and our transportation up to Chicago. I don't know, I just saw,
I
thought that
happen
this.
to agree with you. I don't think the board should have to pay for their
The hotel.
hotel in Chicago.
Okay, we're not paying for our hotel in Chicago, and yet, when you're attending this AVID conference.
Yeah, we are. I paid for mine.
You paid for your hotel, but this proposal says that the district is going to be paying for your hotel.
Well, I think personally it's out-of-state travel, but I think the School Board Association, although we pay membership to that, I still think that the district should pay for the hotel in Chicago because those hotels are, my hotel room was like almost $200 a night at the Swiss Tail. I think that's where I stayed. And so that's a lot of money out of pocket for, I would think, all of us, I mean, we don't get compensated for anything else we do, running around in town and going to other events. So I just think every other elected official gets reimbursed for something, and we don't. We live a lot of life that cost us on our own. But if we didn't want to do it, then I guess we wouldn't do it.
Right. Well, I would like to make a motion that this action item be changed, excluding the cost for hotel. And, deleting hotels and meals.
So your motion is to take out hotel,
Hotel and meals.
meals.
And so the district will be covering the cost for transportation and miscellaneous.
So I have to have a motion.
Okay, that's your motion.
That's my motion. I have to have a second then. Does anybody second that motion? Hearing none.
Okay. All right.
But I think,
We still have to vote on the original.
yeah, I remember I'm going to say something. I think if board members want to get reimbursed the Chicago trip, you're more than welcome, and we'll approve it. I think that was an agreement that we did before Superintendent Gill was here. We actually did not go to a conference because the district was in, we cut how much, $1 million that year? And then that's the reason we did it. So, if any board member wants to get reimbursed, I think, to go to Chicago, you're more than welcome, because I do agree, Ms. Johnson is very expensive. Like I said, that's totally up to the board
Okay,
member.
but in the future, when we're approving our expenses going to the conference, it should at least be offered that the district.
And that's,
And then we can choose.
yeah, and I think what we should do is we'll note that for board members from Chicago, if you want to. I think you should submit that before you want to go, and then we'll vote on that.
Okay, all right.
I think originally why we did this too is because we didn't feel like we had the funds in our
board budget.
Board budget for all of us to be paid for everything, and so I think we made the decision, those of us that can afford to or want to do it. It's always been my understanding, if somebody couldn't afford it but wanted to go, we were going to reimburse them. That was just my understanding, because I want everybody to go that wants to go, and I don't want money to be an issue that they're not going, so I think that's kind of why we decided to do that.
And a note on that was that we were actually spotlight of state of Illinois with school districts that did not spend a lot of money up at the conference. There were districts that spent $20,000, $15,000, and we were one of the, I think, lowest. We were. I think the lowest ones, and we were spotlighted for a district. Look how many districts there in the state of Illinois. So we're conservative on that part. Yeah. But I agree with you. We'll set timeline. This is June, so we'll do like when's that conference? November.
Yeah.
So about September, something like that. We'll make sure. So thank you, and we already have a motion and a second on the original 9.7. We just have to have a vote.
Okay. Johnson?
Present.
Lopez?
Aye.
Mars?
Aye.
Moore?
Present.
Ringer?
Aye.
Sisti?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
That is 5 aye votes and 2 present.
Okay, 9.8, student discipline.
President Lopez and members of the board, it is my recommendation that one 8th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Washington Middle School through the end of the 17-18 school year with a program, and that one 10th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Lanphier High School through the end of the 18-19 school year with a program, and that one 11th grade student be hereby expelled from further attendance at Lanphier High School through the end of the 18-19 school year without a program.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, hearing none?
Lopez?
Aye.
Mars?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Ringer?
Aye.
Sisti?
Aye.
Zimmers?
Aye.
Johnson?
Aye.
That is 7 aye votes.
Next meeting's Monday, April 23rd, here in the boardroom at 5:30. We do have on April 17th, the All-City Music Festival at Sangamon Auditorium. I encourage everybody to go to it. It's a great time. I want to make sure everybody hears me too. The meeting is adjourned.
By consensus, we all stand down.
Right.